Is it better to believe in a warm lie or the cold truth? Most growth oriented people are very quick to answer. They want the cold truth. They don't want fake positivity. They don't want comforting delusions. They want to see themselves and the world as they really are. But this question becomes a little bit more complicated to answer when we recognize that our beliefs about reality shape how we interpret it. Two people can experience the same exact circumstances and interpret them in very different ways. For instance, one addict relapses and sees it as proof that they are broken beyond repair. Another addict relapses and sees it as feedback, an opportunity to improve their methods and grow stronger. The fact is the same. The relapse happened, but the belief about the fact differs. And because that belief differs, the emotional impact, next behavior, and life trajectory differ too. And this creates the question, if our beliefs are the lens through which we view the world, what should we optimize that lens for? Accuracy or empowerment? This is a question that I find myself coming back to year after year. For as long as I can remember, I have always been someone who wanted to know the truth, even if that truth causes me pain. Since I was young, I have claimed that it is better to believe in a painful truth than an uncomfortable lie. But as time has gone on, I've started to recognize that a lot of the things that I have viewed as truth were really just interpretations. And many of those interpretations left me feeling very discouraged, depressed, and miserable. So the question that I am really exploring is this: how can we choose beliefs that are grounded in reality while enhancing the joy, fulfillment, and growth that we experience? Welcome to Progress Theory. My name is Garrett, and this is a podcast about what it takes for a human being to actually change and transform. The more I have tried to answer this question over time, the more convinced I have become that a lot of people are very trapped by truths that are really just self-fulfilling interpretations. Most of us want to understand the world around us. We want to see reality clearly. And in our attempts to do so, we start to tell ourselves these stories that explain what's happening around us and that help us understand the world in a way that makes sense. But the problem is, these stories only seem accurate because we are projecting them onto the world, not because they actually reflect reality. And this can create a very dangerous feedback loop. We see the world through the lens of our beliefs. And because of that, we interpret what happens around us in a way that validates those beliefs. So over time, they become more reinforced and they distort how we view reality even further. And this can be a good thing if it is positive beliefs, but a lot of the time they aren't positive. They are very discouraging and depressing beliefs. And the more they are reinforced, the more negative they skew our perception of the world around us. This has been something I've struggled with for a very long time. I used to struggle immensely with addiction. I relapsed hundreds of times. I felt like I was constantly starting over. I was constantly resetting all my progress. Every single time I relapsed, I saw it as a sign that I was broken, that I would never succeed, that I would be cursed by addiction forever, and that I should just give up. The more I relapsed, the more solidified these beliefs became, until I just gave up and was extremely depressed and fell off the deep end for years. Another example, I used to tell myself routinely that I was unlikable. I did not think I was good at socializing. I didn't think people wanted to be around me. And because I would tell myself this, I would avoid socializing. I would feel very uncomfortable and anxious when I got in social situations. And I would interpret how people interacted with me with the assumption that they didn't like me, which just made me worse at socializing and validated this idea that I'm not good at it and I'm unlikable. In our effort to understand what's happening, it seems like we all start to build mental prisons that keep us very discouraged and disempowered. Now, this is not just unique to me. This quite literally is the human experience. We all see the world through the lens of our beliefs, and because of that, we can become very trapped by them. For example, say you get broken up with. The fact is simply you got dumped. Someone broke up with you. You can either interpret that fact as this is proof that we weren't aligned, we weren't very compatible, this wasn't a great relationship, we are both capable of finding far more aligned, far better partners elsewhere. Or you can interpret that fact as I am not good enough, I am not worth loving, no one will ever love me, I should just give up on relationships because they are doomed to fail. Another example, say you lose your job, you get fired. The fact is simply you lost your job, the company let you go. Your interpretation of the fact might be this is just proof I wasn't a great fit for the role, I didn't have the right skill sets, I was starting to fall off and become lazy, but this is a great opportunity to improve my work ethic and build better skill sets to build a better career. Or you might interpret this as I suck. I got fired. I'm inadequate. I will never have a good career. I'm doomed to keep getting fired over and over again. A more day to day minor example. Say you text a friend and they don't text you back. The fact is simply your friend didn't respond to you. But the interpretation of that can either be they are busy or distracted or forgetful. This does not at all reflect how they view me. Or the belief about this can be this friend doesn't respect me, they don't care about me, they hate me, and I should end this friendship. It is a broken friendship. It seems to me that we very often attach to the most painful interpretations of the truth and use the pain we feel as proof. I would encourage you to think about this intentionally over the next week. Where might you be causing yourself excess pain because of the way you're interpreting the things that happen to you? This brings me to one of the most difficult parts of trying to build grounded yet empowered beliefs, and it's this. Painful interpretations often disguise themselves as truth because the pain feels very real. The interpretations we have of reality can cause very overwhelming and painful emotions and very distressing and discouraging thought patterns. And those thoughts and emotions will then change our behavior in a way that creates experiences that further reinforce the negative belief. This can create a very dangerous feedback loop. Now, this can be a little bit abstract, so I want to give a concrete example to showcase it. Say that you believe you are bad at socializing. Because you believe you're bad at socializing, you feel a lot of anxiety, stress, pressure, dread. You just hate the experience of socializing. The whole time you feel pain, you feel uncomfortable. And because of this, you socialize less or you don't put in effort when you do socialize. As a result of socializing less, your social skills decline. You get worse at it. And because you get worse at it, you have even worse social experiences. And those worse social experiences then confirm, validate, and amplify the belief that you are bad at socializing. The truth isn't that you're bad at socializing. The truth is that you believe you're bad at socializing, and the pain you feel from that creates a self-fulfilling prophecy. Now, the flip side of this, if all you ever pursue, if all you optimize for is empowerment, that empowerment can quickly create a disconnect from reality. And that was a hard thing for me to really understand for a long time. I really bought into the positive beliefs, positive self-talk space, but that can very quickly turn into delusion if you're not careful. When I was younger, I read a book called What to Say When You Talk to Yourself. I still think it's a great book. I think there are a lot of very valuable ideas in there. But my youthful, naive interpretation of that book was essentially it doesn't matter how I behave. All that matters is what I say to myself. What beliefs am I reinforcing through repetition? If I just say enough positive beliefs, they will become real and they will change my behavior in a very real way. But the problem is, there is a feedback loop between beliefs and behavior. What you believe changes your thoughts and emotions, and your thoughts and emotions change your behavior. The change in behavior changes your experiences, which then reinforces or changes your beliefs. And so if you are constantly saying one thing to yourself, but your behavior and your experiences tell a different story, there starts to become a disconnect. Your experiences are no longer reinforcing your beliefs, they are contradicting them. And so you convince yourself that this is true, but reality does not reflect it. It does not accurately align with the things you are experiencing, which at best just teaches you to lie to yourself. Again, a concrete example of this. Say you are a salesman and you wake up every day, you tell yourself you are the greatest salesman alive, you are phenomenal at your job, and you believe this. You think it is true. You've managed to implant this belief in your brain so much so that you have no doubts. But your metrics show that you are not good. You have a horrible closing ratio, you barely work, you barely put in calls, your conversion rates amongst the sales process is horrible, and yet you believe you're the best. And so you don't try to get better. You don't measure your analytics in order to see how to improve. You just live in this delusion. The truth that you believe might be empowering. It might make you feel good, but it is so disconnected from reality that it leaves you worse off. When looking at these two extremes, something becomes very clear. Pain without grounding becomes distortion. Empowerment without grounding becomes delusion. The goal is to identify the most empowering interpretation that stays grounded in the facts. Now, belief change is something that is still very difficult for me. I don't think I fully understand it. I've been thinking about it for a long time, loosely. I think in the last 3 months, I have really increased the amount of time and energy I've put into trying to understand what it would take for someone to actually shift their identity and change their beliefs. And while I have so much room to grow in my understanding, I do think I have a basic knowledge of how to do this. So the method I am testing on myself, in which I think will help you also create more empowering beliefs, is this. The acronym for it is AIR. It's 3 steps: assess, identify, and reframe. The first step is assess. This is almost a form of mindfulness. The reality is we cannot actually know what we believe. There's no way for us to get inside our brains and see the programming in a way that is objective. But we can see the output of our beliefs, which is our thoughts and emotions. The beliefs we have and our interpretations of reality determine the thoughts and the emotions we have in reaction to our experiences. And so, a lot of the time, when we experience a very overwhelming emotion or a distressing thought, it is the result of a negative interpretation. So that can become the trigger for this tool. When feeling a very overwhelming, distressing, negative thought or emotion, you ask yourself, what in my environment is triggering this? What thing happening around me is causing this painful thought or emotion? And then once you identify what the thing is, then you ask yourself, what is my belief about this? What is the interpretation that is fueling this pain? That brings you to the next step, which is identify. Identify is when you take that, you try to really break it down to what is the belief behind this? What is the interpretation that is responsible for this pain? And once you've found that, once you have a good idea of like, this is where this is coming from, which it's going to be abstract. A lot of times there's going to be multiple potential options. But once you've nailed down, I think this is it, you ask yourself a better question. What are the concrete, undeniable facts here? And a very meta example of this. So in starting this podcast, this is episode 17 of Progress Theory. I often feel so much doubt about my abilities to succeed with this. I look at my views, I look at the growth I've experienced so far, And I just feel like I will never succeed. This is a waste of time. I don't know why I'm doing this. It's not going to help me create the business I want. I feel so much shame and embarrassment and fear around this podcast. And so when I feel that, I start to ask myself, what is the story behind it? What is the belief or the interpretation that is causing these negative emotions? And a lot of the time, it's the idea of like, look at my views, look at the success I've seen so far. It's proof that I will never succeed. It's proof that I'm not good at this. When I look back on my episodes, when I watch them, I'm like, I'm just not good at creating engaging content yet. Maybe I'll never be good. Maybe I don't have anything valuable to say. And then when I break that down and I go to the identify stage and I try to ask myself, what are the undeniable facts? The fact is, I am on episode 17 of this podcast. Most podcasts don't see any sort of substantive growth until they're hundreds of episodes in. So it would be delusional for me to think that I would have a huge podcast 17 episodes in. Another fact, I've never done anything like this before in my life. I've never even had social media before the age of 26, where I'm at right now. And so I've never built this skill set. I don't know how to create engaging content. I've never tried to create stories and create valuable tools in a way that's easily shared and that I can communicate. I've never tried to communicate with people. So when I look at those facts, it's like, okay, yeah, it makes sense that I'm not succeeding. And that takes us to step 3, reframing. That is when you ask yourself the final question of what is the most empowering interpretation of these facts that stay grounded in them? Or what is the most empowering interpretation of reality that stays grounded in the undeniable facts that I just laid out? For me, for this example, it's I might not be good at this yet, but it's because I have not developed the skill. And if I keep making episodes, if I keep focusing on getting better, if I keep focusing on delivering more value to people and being more engaging and entertaining and learning how to do that, the episodes will get better. More viewers will come. It will follow. If I keep focusing on how to connect this to the overall business I'm creating, this will become a better business asset over time. Even if I don't succeed with this, I quit one day, this can be a great opportunity to refine my own ideas, to test things on myself, and to build skill sets that can transfer to other things. So it's the same facts, the same facts. This podcast is not succeeding yet. It's not generating the growth I want. But the way you interpret it completely changes the emotions and the thoughts that it creates. And changing the thoughts and emotions can fuel more positive behavior. So in that way, what starts as a very negative and destructive belief that's operating in the background unseen can become very tangible by using triggers in the assess stage. You can identify what the actual grounded facts are, disconnected from your interpretation in the identify stage, and you can reframe that to a version of the belief that is far more positive, far more uplifting and empowering without falling victim to absolute delusion. It is still grounded in the closest thing we have to reality. So I imagine this tool will be refined over time. I don't know if this is the best version of it yet, but I'm planning on testing this on myself. We'll see if it creates growth for me. Hopefully you can use this exact tool or something like it to start really questioning the beliefs and the stories that are causing you pain and to start creating more joyful and empowering beliefs that still keep you grounded in reality. So, this has been episode 17 of Progress Theory. If you enjoyed this episode or it changed the way you think about your beliefs and how they're affecting your life, subscribe or follow to see future episodes about human transformation, change, and well-being. And if you're a driven man in your 20s who is stuck in a start strong, collapse, reset loop, I have built a free challenge that is designed to help you start breaking this loop so you can build momentum that actually lasts. If you're interested, check it out at progresstheory.com. And lastly, if you are listening to this, I just want to say explicitly, I very much so appreciate your time and attention. I hope that you are able to create all the progress you are looking for in your life, and I will see you in the next episode.